welcome to the Bankers Roundtable on Paraguay. My name is Silvia Pavoni. I am the investments editor of The Banker, and I am in Asunción, the capital of Paraguay today, to discuss the investment opportunities that the country offers and, of course, also to discuss its challenges. I am joined today by a panel of distinguished speakers who are going to help me tackle these issues. Now, Paraguay is not on many investors' agenda. In fact, a few may even be unsure about its geographical location within Latin America. Landlocked between Brazil, Argentina, and Bolivia, it's a country that has vast lands, a young workforce, access to the world's most powerful hydroelectric plants, and also recent research discoveries are pointing towards what could be one of the largest, if not the largest, titanium reserves under its soil. This event is sponsored by Sudameris Bank, and before we start discussions, I would like to ask my guests to introduce themselves.
Jorge Corbalán, Governor of the Central Bank of Paraguay.
Rosana Polastri, Resident Representative for the World Bank based in Asunción, Paraguay.
Agustín Magallanes, President and General Manager of Conti Paraguay.
Conor McEnroy, Chairman, Sudameris Bank.
Liz Kramer, Minister of Tourism of Paraguay.
Tobias Roy, Resident Representative of the International Monetary Fund in Asunción, Paraguay.
Jan Esperanza, Executive Director, Moisés Bertoni Foundation in Paraguay.
Before we even start talking about the economic potential that the country offers, what is the relevance of Paraguay to the rest of the world? Let's see who of the speakers would like to answer this first. Perhaps one of the investors in the country, Conor.
Well, if you'll permit a colourful turn of phrase, when you wake up in the morning, when you brush your teeth, the menthol in the toothpaste probably comes from Paraguay. When you put your perfume on, the base essential oils in the perfume probably come from Paraguay. When you go down and have your bowl of all bran, the bran probably comes from Paraguay. When you put your spoon of sugar in your tea or your coffee, if it's organic sugar, it almost certainly comes from Paraguay. And when you get on the train to go to work, the sleepers underneath the railway tracks probably come from Paraguay. But you've never heard of Paraguay.
So it is a good time, and there are plenty of reasons to find out more about this country. Now, as I said, first things first, so we need to talk about the economic potential of the country. That's been growing at a really fast rate up to the financial crisis that, of course, affected pretty much all countries in the world, directly or indirectly. But now it is beating expectations again for this year. So, Jorge, what is your view on the potential that the country has? And if you can also give us some information on the good indicators in terms of, for example, former reserves in relation to GDP and others that Paraguay has.
Sure. What we see here at the macro level is the economy is quite strong. Strong because Paraguay is running fiscal surpluses for the past 8 years. So it leaves the economy with a very strong foot to avoid or at least minimize any international shocks that we always receive, because our country is very small but very open to the rest of the world. And the international reserves right now is roughly 26% of GDP. It's a good amount of reserves, international reserves. If you compare that with external debt, which is roughly 15% of GDP, you have a very strong position in front of the world. Income per capita, years ago, $1,000 per year. Right now we are talking about $3,000 per year, per person, no? And you can count on too many examples that will tell you that the economy is growing very well, and the expectation for the future is quite positive, really positive. Also, if we look at the financial sector is doing extremely well. The rate of return on capital for this financial system is, you can easily reach 30% a year. You will say that's a lot of earnings per
Yes,
year.
it is pretty amazing, especially given the turbulent times that now pretty much all the banks around the world in the so-called first world are experiencing. Liz, of course, you are in a privileged position to witness and to contribute to the country's growth. And tourism is one of the economic sectors that has become, in fact, a sector in its own right only recently. How have you seen the country changing in the past years? And of course, you're one of the many Paraguayans that have a professional experience abroad and came back. And so what country did you find when you came back, and where is the country now?
Well, as far as tourism was considered something minor in the economy years ago. Not even Paraguayans believed in the country's capacity to attract visitors in different areas. That has changed dramatically in the last, I would say, 7-6 years more or less. The tourism has been growing more or less at the ratio of 6 to 10% per year. But what has grown a lot is the investment in hotel infrastructure. So right now, last year, Paraguay received over $217 million in tourism. Of course, we are not going to beat the meat industry or the energy or the financial sector probably, but I'm pretty much completely sure that tourism is going to become one of the main sources, main sources of the country in the next 10 years or so, especially in developing different areas of Paraguay. We do have chances to compete internationally, especially in natural tourism and cultural tourism, and also in the events sector. And again, our challenges, talking about challenges as you mentioned at the beginning, of course we need more infrastructure to enjoy the rest of the country. There are extremely nice places around Paraguay that I can see. When I see these places, I can tell what that area is going to become one day when the right infrastructure arrives. So that's one of our major challenges, but also connectivity. Right now, we are receiving 2 different new airlines coming to Paraguay again. One is coming at the end of the year. So,
which are the airlines?
TACA started last year, and Copa Airlines is coming in November. We are negotiating with Iberia. Hopefully, we're going to connect again Paraguay after 20 years with Europe again, and that's going to change the numbers dramatically. Connectivity to main markets like US and in Europe is absolutely crucial. So our numbers, which are right now over a little bit less than 500,000 visitors, is going to change dramatically once we achieve that kind of connectivity again.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, at the table we also have observers from multilateral organizations, and I'd like to ask Tobias, who is the outgoing representative in Paraguay of the IMF, his views on the country. How has the country changed during your time here, and what are your views for what the country can achieve in the future?
Well, in order to appreciate what we are experiencing now, perhaps it is useful to go back into the recent past before. From the 1980s to roughly 2003, 2005, this country lived a prolonged period of economic stagnation with real incomes falling, with a number of financial crises, banking crises, and so on. At about 2003, combined effort of the public sector and the private sector decided to turn things around and to put some reforms into place that would dramatically change the underpinnings of the economy. Fiscal reforms, also reforms in financial and banking regulation, tax reform, among other things, and a general shift towards stable macroeconomic policies. Since 2007, 2008, we are experiencing the increase in commodity prices and in food prices, all products for which Paraguay is very well placed to compete in the marketplace. And under these circumstances, when these external factors met the sound and solid base that was laid here by good policies, then Paraguay started taking off, and we saw things like a spectacular growth rate of 15% in 2010, which is unheard of in the history of the country. Admittedly, the 2009 was a terrible year for Paraguay, but it had less to do with the financial crisis, but rather with climate conditions and weather conditions. Paraguay experienced a severe drought in 2009, which made it that GDP fell, but it recovered quickly in 2010. And I think it's the result of good policies combined with very favorable external conditions.
Thank you. And Rosanna, you represent the World Bank. What is your perception and knowledge and insights on the country?
I fully agree with Tobias on the macro description of the economy and what we have witnessed in the last 2 years. I think what I would like to add to his description of what he has seen in the last 2 years is that the trust and the stable macro policies have allow space for a vibrant private sector. And that's one of the reasons that you see this recovery of 15% in 2010. Now, looking forward as the World Bank, we see a few challenges, and basically these are how to sustain growth. And you want to sustain a growth that is a growth which is broad-based and inclusive. We have seen that in 2009, despite of the crisis, poverty continued falling. These are very good news, but you need to bridge certain gaps, and these gaps are the infrastructure gaps and social gaps. And this will allow for a sustained and broad-based growth.